Hi, and welcome to Chic West Podcast, a radio show that will help you not only claim your awareness around the concept of power, body, beauty, voice, and the arts of your life, but truly embody it. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson. You are here to widen your lens on the unfiltered and uncurated conversation we have in my Chic West membership program. And best yet, you'll get real life, tangible tools to stay real and true to you. Each season, we will interview incredible, knowledgeable guests, and you'll educate and uplift as we strive to live whole and not perfect. Welcome. Hi, Chic West. Estelle here. Today's guest, Danielle Beinstein, is a gem to have on the show. She's one of these luminaries that you just want to keep close. We spoke of how nature heals, the urgency of living, the smallness of the ego, and so much more. It's a short conversation, but it's deep and insightful. I hope you love it as much as I had fun recording it. You can find Danielle at daniellebeinstein.com and follow her on Instagram at Danny Beinstein. Enjoy. All right. Hi, Chic West. Welcome to Chic West Podcast. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson. This episode is a bit of a Chic West revival, if you will, because the guest gracing us with her presence today is someone I've been wanting to have on the show since I first heard her on a podcast myself. Danielle Beinstein is a spiritual astrologer, a lover of art, literature, and nature who grew up in New York but lives in the countryside of Nashville, Tennessee. Since my first, this is always weird to do when somebody's like looking at you. Since my first online encounter with her, I've been fascinated by her groundedness and personal knowledge she brings to everything, her astrology, everything, manifestation work and shadow work. And I've been fortunate enough to participate in one-on-one session with her as well as small group container, which have been completely magic and expanding. I could go on praising you,
No,
Danielle,
please don't. Please don't.
but just, you've impacted my life, and I wanted my community, my audience to know you. And I've been really passionate about having you on the show. So just thank you so much.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. I just adore you. I'm honestly, I'm thrilled to be here and to talk to you.
So the first question I always ask on the show is, what makes you feel alive today?
Well, my dogs. I love my dogs so much. So I'm out in Colorado for the summer because I do live in Tennessee, but I'm out in Colorado for the summer to spend time with my family because my parents are they're getting older and their health is declining. And so I want to spend as much time with them. And yesterday I've been taking them 3 times a day to the park, we're on the river at my parents' house, but there's a park and my dogs love to get in the water, but they don't love to swim. But yesterday, one of them jumped in and swam by herself. And I swear the joy it brought me, the ecstasy it brought me. I'm like, oh, is this what parents feel when their children, walk through a fear and do something? It embarrassingly excited by it. What brings me alive? So, I'm having an interesting relationship to travel. It certainly has been travel in the past, but I'm having, I guess you could call it, an awakening around travel, just a deeper awareness of how my travel has been really what this writer who I follow so closely named, I think he's Chris Arnott or Chris Arnatti. I post about him a lot, but he calls thin travel, nothing to do with weight, but the idea of having, curated experiences of a place, which I've definitely been guilty of most of my life. I've traveled so much, but it hasn't really been immersive the way that I think I would really grow from. And if I think about, I spent 7 months in New Zealand, which for me on a personal level is really challenging. But it was immersive. And I was challenged by the culture, which you would think, oh, same language as America. How could it be so different? But it is very different. And so I've been having this new relationship to travel, but the new experiences in that way. I love literature. I love to read. And I have really been developing an immersive relationship with nature in a way that, I was raised in Manhattan, was not raised in nature at all. Museums were my playground. And just the idea that the whole world is animate, and even living on some land, and we're basically in the forest, and how alive the forest feels. And when I sit on my porch at home in Tennessee and I see the butterflies, and we have a toad that likes to hang out, and we see deer and in the yard, and the birds chirping. I mean, I've really become immersed in that way, and it feels, I'm like, oh, this is what all those fairy tales are about. So there's like a childlike playfulness that is bringing me alive, where I used to be quite kind of studious and serious and quite linear in my thinking. My whole perceptual reality in like the movie Avatar is like just shifting the way I experience the world in a much more multifaceted, multidimensional way, rather than a hierarchical or linear way, which I was trained to think in.
Just reading your stories on
Mm.
Instagram this summer, like just the little snippets.
Yes.
And I know it's not everything, but I'm always like, Danielle is going through something.
I am. It's accurate. It's so accurate. Yeah, this summer has been, very slow in what I've actually done. I have my clients, but there's a lot of spaciousness, and I've been with family, and I've been literally immersed in nature with the pups, and that slowness. There's a slowness to Tennessee where I live, but there's something about this summer. Maybe it's the Venus retrograde. Yeah, I am. I'm definitely going through a
And
next layer of shift.
do you think that's like, because I've been reflecting a lot. Like actually today,
Yeah.
I was just counting for fun. There's 42 days before my 42nd birthday.
Uh-huh.
Like, and
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about, like, I don't know who said this, somebody smart, but like my second act,
Yeah.
and like a lot. And I turned 40 and I was aware, like my husband would joke and say, welcome to middle life, and I was
Yes.
like, ha, rah, rah, rah. It was very like superficial. But it's only in the past, I think if when I started seeing you, I was like, no, no, this is real. Like, how can I reimagine my, like,
Yes.
what's like, I'm gonna become an elder here.
Yes.
And how do I want, like, the visions I have of my life? Like, what, like, this is important. I don't have much time left, and
That has been
be-
so present for
it's
me.
so, yeah. And like, and two, and it's funny because I had like all this list of things like I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to you, and I had three things, and the third thing literally like erased it. Oh, we won't have time to talk about, and it's what you brought up. But it's what I've been fascinated lately by, my relationship to the land I live
Yeah.
in right now. And I just wrote about that. There's this beach close to our house, and like I've literally, it's like a poetic testament to how it's helped me in my, I don't know, how can I call
Yeah.
it, like a grief recovery
Yes.
or something, like.
Yeah.
And like I love just your language around, like, oh, there's a toad and the butterflies, and like, because that's how I feel about my walking trail, and that's how I feel about that beach, and
Yeah.
like I don't know, and I, like, we're both fanatic of psychology, but I literally feel the places you're in, they teach you. They're great teachers.
100%.
And you literally become them.
Yes. Yes. And I think that, Estelle, I think about you a lot. And one of the things that I have learned from you is your level of aliveness,
Oh.
especially, I don't know if we recover from grief. I think we metabolize it in whatever way we can, but I think it sits with us. You would know even more than I, right? But your determination to live in the face of the greatest loss, to me, I think about you all. I do. I think about you all the time because I think it is the bravest, most creative act a human can do. And
Hmm.
I think that, um I always think about the flower that grew in Hiroshima, right? Like the idea that the earth is constantly alive and
Yes.
that life wants to sprout. And I think, so you're about to be 42, I'm about to be 43, and I think about this idea of uh, actually letting go of the whole want thing, the whole contraction around want, because there's something when we look at the world in this multifaceted, multidimensional way and we dance with life. It's like what's meant for us will find us. And
Hmm.
we've gotten into this idea that we can control it and that everything is about the self, right? And it's all up to us. And I just don't think that's true. I think that that is a function of the kind of the Western modern mind. But I think it's a necessary thing. Like, I don't think it's bad. I just think, I was talking about this with my best friend the other day, that, I was saying, I don't, I, anything that I had wanted when I was younger, I actually have not manifested. And she was like, I think you're selling yourself short. Your whole life is a manifestation. And I said, yes, but not from my ego. I didn't get anything that I wanted from an egoic standpoint. Like, and I mean, nothing. My life looks radically different, but my soul, which I've tried to listen to as much as possible, my soul has taken me to places and introduced me to people that have really challenged my worldview and continue to break down my worldview, in so much so in a way that, like, if I didn't have a strong constitution, I might go crazy because my whole way of seeing the, and I see what of seeing the world has dissolved and transformed into something new. And I see why people hold so tightly to a worldview, because it's very, very scary to be challenged out of that. It's terrifying. And I've been thinking about death in the very real sense, and then I've been thinking about the death of midlife
Ugh.
and the transition, and how I do feel more alive as a woman than I've ever felt. And I, I'm just kind of, I marvel at the fact that I get to walk on the earth. And it sounds so cheesy, but it's just like, I, my ancestors had it rough. Like, I went to see a healer the other night. She's like, "Oh, your lineage is dark." I was like, "I know, I know." And then she said to me, she's like, "But you seem to transform it so quickly." I was like, "Well, that's, decades of work." But I just think about my ancestors, you know, many of whom were literally shoved into cattle cars, arrived at a concentration camp, and were gassed and then incinerated. Like, that was their, at about my age. Like, I think about my great grandmother who was my age, and then her daughters. Her son had made it over to America at 10 years old. My grandfather, they sent him over. Terrible story. They sent him over hoping he would be able to bring everyone over, and he was 10, couldn't. So I think about that lineage, and I think about, you know, that I get to live on this earth
Yeah.
in the way that I do. And I really don't take that lightly. I really don't. I feel like it's my duty to honor them by living.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I do appreciate that about you, just how wide. Like, I love that you talk about your past,
Mm.
like, not just your past, like your personal
Yeah.
past, but like your ancestors and where you came from. Like, this is so important. Like, the ego is so, you were talking about the ego. It's so small and limiting.
So much so. And like I think even in like small ways, I mean, America has destroyed our soil system, so our bread is terrible. But like they were bakers. They had a stone bakery and that was obviously taken from them. But like I love bread. And I even think about like when am eating bread, I'm like, this is the food of my ancestors. Literally, they made bread, you know? And I think it's much more soothing to the soul to feel part of something, a lineage, an ancestry, and then part of the larger, human race. And then beyond that, like everything being alive. I think the level of anxiety that we feel as human beings in the modern world when we think it's all about us. That's the great irony, right? It's like
Yeah.
the constant psychoanalysis analysis actually keeps us more anxious
Yeah.
and more separate. The awareness is key, but I think that we have pop psychology has actually caused unintended consequences that aren't so great for us. Like if you think everyone's a narcissist, it's problematic.
But I also love, ugh, there's so many angles I could take here, but like I love how like even your your own like story about how did you become like an astrologer that's merging like
I don't
psychology
know.
and consciousness, into like that. Like for me, like you've been such an expander in that way, like in because like what we do is so like nobody else does it.
Yeah,
Like who does art and yoga? Like nobody does that. Like
you do.
so, like in a way, and it's funny, and I think you chuckle at this because so when I saw you out, like I was trying to remember, was it I think it was at the top of the year, like January or before, and you had been on my radar for
Mhm.
many years. I would listen. I would like fangirl all your podcasts. I could like binge watch. Anyways, and the whole time I was like, this is so bizarre because I'm not even into astrology. Like I know the big lines and whatever, but like it's so funny because like that is hilarious, but at the same time there's such a depth, and I've always appreciated the fact that never once I've heard you say, oh, you do that because you're Gemini. Oh,
Oh
you
yeah,
do that you're Leo. That would just drive me nuts because like
that's not my
that
style.
is so ego too, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, like limiting, like, oh yeah, I've always done this because like this is so like restrained thing. So for you, like every person is just so complex.
Yes.
It's so much more than we ought to we see with our eyes.
Yeah, I think so. But I think a lot of what's out there astrologically is just an offshoot of pop psychology, right?
Yeah.
And I've definitely traveled down that road, but it's ultimately, I think, really limiting to the feeling of wholeness and fulfillment. And I think when we do that, when we say, oh, that's just because that person is, it is like just calling someone a narcissist or like it just limits the how complex we are.
Yeah.
And we're all growing all the time. Like if I were to listen to older podcasts of mine, like I'm sure I would cringe because it's like we're constantly growing and evolving, right? And so I see, oh, okay, that was coming from conditioning or ego or fear, because it's really all just fear, right? It's like the separation. And that's a lot of what the death stuff that's coming up. It's like, well, it's the unknown. It's like, what is it going to be like when I'm no longer in this portal or vessel? And
Mm.
that's a scary thing. And so I think like, oh, if we take a very kind of basic version of that, is I was a city dweller and a city kid, and I was not afraid of the city, not afraid of the subway, not afraid of anything like that. But you put me in a forest and I'm still like, okay, what? What do I do here? And that humility around nature, I think, is really important uh, for me in terms of humility, because humility to me is where I experience grace, and it's where I experience God, and it's where I say like, I'm doing the best I can given the knowledge base that I have, knowing that I am a mortal lens. And when I do my work, the first thing I do before I sit down with a person or a group is I ask to be taken out of the way,
Mhm.
right? That it's coming through me. And that's been a lot of my personal work, is to get out of the way. And I find that a lot of what's out there is how can I get in the way? How can I
Yeah.
how can I how can I be at the center of what I'm doing? And that doesn't deeply resonate with me. When I've tried that or I've walked down that road, it hasn't felt fully authentic or real to me. It feels like I'm playing a part, right? It's like I was 15 years in LA, and people are like, you developed a brand, and I'm like, I no, it's my name. It's not a brand. I'm not selling a product. And I struggle with that. I keep setting this intention, like, to be off social media, but it's also how I reach people. So it's complicated, right? And I also, a friend of mine brought to my attention this idea of a fourth way, like a spiritual way. I'm sure I'm butchering this, but the idea that like we're meant to evolve through the period that we're living in, because I have a habit of romanticizing times in the past and being nostalgic for a period that I didn't live in. And also even like nostalgic for the 90s when we didn't have all the social media or whatever. But then she was talking to me about how, actually living through the time that we're living in is the spiritual journey. It's not to, for an individual, it may be like being a monk on a mountaintop, but that's not necessarily the way either. Like, this time exists, right? So how do I be a conduit through this period? And that's something that I've been working on, and I'm trying to open my mind to different ways of looking at AI and all the technological advancement, because my first instinct is no, like, we need to return to nature. And I do think the modern world has taken us farther and farther from ourselves and from spirit. But then I'm like, but it's happening, so it can't be wrong. From a higher spiritual perspective, I ask all those kinds of questions, and I try and challenge my own rejection of
Mm.
aspects of modernity, which I, by the way, live. I watch movies on my iPad all the time. I text all the time. I'm in social media. So it's like a split in my consciousness that I'm trying to look at from a more holistic, almost mythological lens.
Interrupting this mind blowing conversation to let you know of my studio fall offerings. September is kicking off with my mindful mark making 28 days of creative mindfulness. In October, we get challenged by practicing yoga for 10 days, for 10 minutes in a row, with my 10 by 10 by 10 challenge. And November is for the ever popular Oracle card making workshop. Register today at estellethompson.com. That's ESTELLETHOMSON.com. Stay magic. I love that you brought this on because that's a lot of my work center. Like, it's like we're modern women
Yes.
living, like you said,
Yeah.
we don't live in a cave in a monk. And it's like, how can we merge both these worlds? Like, I consider myself somebody who's deeply spiritual,
Ye
and yet, like, I still have to go buy
Yes.
groceries and like pay my bills and stuff.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
a lot of the conversation, it's like, how can we fit these snippet of time into our days, that feel soulful and that feel
Yeah.
that I come back into my body. And something you said earlier too that really kind of perked me up was, something about, when we truly surrender. I don't know how you phrase it, but like, you can go crazy.
Oh, yeah. When I said, like, I have a strong constitution, I'm surprised. Like, otherwise I'd go crazy.
But I find this
Yeah.
very, very interesting because I got this pet peeve lately. Like, everybody, I mean, on social, but like, just in the community I'm in, it's like all about safety. Everybody wants everybody to be safe.
But there's no such thing.
And but it's like, but wait, I'm just like, wait. I get it, and I'm all for that, but also, isn't it to risk everything?
Yes, but also, like, what does that mean? Like, that safetyism is a denial of our aliveness. It's like it's the illusion of control.
Right.
And that is where I think, like, moving away from nature, we are nature, right? But moving, seeing ourselves as just like, oh, I'm just looking at this. This is beautiful, what I'm seeing, but not realizing we're part of it, and not realizing there is a danger inherent in life. To shut that off is to numb ourselves,
Mhm.
right? So if we just want to sit behind screens, and we just want to order DoorDash or whatever, and we just want to stay as comfortable as possible, well, that's almost definitely going to increase our anxiety, because it's just increasing our fear of what we can't control. And then what we can't control gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
I think so many of us just are ill-equipped to truly be with everything and
Yes.
hold everything. Yeah, like me, we're about the same age. It's like, now it's like, oh, nature can help me with that.
Yes.
Because it's like, because I'm like one with her. Duh. Like, why did
Like, putting our feet in
I
the ground actually does, like, calm the nervous system and rearrange, our system in a way that really anchors us. And it's like you can have a simulation of that. That's it. But it's never going to be the same as the real thing. It's never going to be the same as, like, bathing in real mineral waters, right? It's like I think I studied a lot in college. I studied the Enlightenment era and then the Romantic era that followed. And it does kind of feel like we're at a similar kind of inflection point where it's like reason and rationality has hit its limit. And we want that romanticism, we want that mysticism, we want that unknown, we want it back, because we're not human, we're not alive without that. It's not an accident that we're seeing, like, a higher rates of anxiety and loneliness and despair in a world that is obsessed with safety and isolation and just rampant consumerism. It's like I see what happens to my own brain on Instagram, which, like, oh, I should buy that. I should buy that. And it's like I can admire it and say it's beautiful and say I don't need to own that.
and also, and we can both speak to this, it's like we live in a world that if, like, I don't post about my class, then nobody
Yes,
comes.
exactly.
So and that's like just the reality of the world we live in. So also, because I've almost shamed myself, like, I too dream, like, if I didn't have to do all this
Yeah.
social media thing, like, I would have someone, like, I like I would be able to frolic in the
Yes.
field and, and
Totally.
paint my toes, and like, I just, and then at the same time, it's like, for me to to express my mission in the world, I have to have a
Yes.
website. Like,
I know, and it's such a that's what I'm saying. It's like how it's almost like the integration and metabolizing the world that we're in. But then there's also that thing like it's a sign of a healthy person to not be I'm butchering this, but to not be adjusted to a sick society. So it's it's very complex and
yeah,
layered, but I do think that returning to our body, like that's what you teach, right? Like embodiment,
yeah,
returning to our bodies and returning to land in whatever way. I mean, I grew up in Manhattan, which I loved. I mean, I loved going to museums as a kid. I loved New York City. But it's like my feet were always in shoes. They were always on concrete. They were always I remember I went to summer camp. I went to sleepaway camp up in New Hampshire on Lake Winnipesaukee. And we swam in the lake. And I remember it being like frigid and hating it every day. And that it bums me out that I hated it because how amazing. And if I had been kind of set up to have a different relationship to nature, like I was at camp, but I wasn't really taking in that I was on this lake or in this nature. And it's amazing. It's great that my parents sent me there, but it wasn't the focus. The conversation at camp was activity, but it wasn't you're in nature. And I just didn't get any of that messaging. And it's been a real learning curve for me, especially being with like a barefoot Kiwi who, is like nature man. He can literally like shoot, skin, and cook an animal. I mean, he was really raised like that. So that's part of such the strong attraction to me because it's like he knows how to move in the world in such a different way
mm,
than I do. And it's humbling. And that comes back to the humility thing. Cause like, especially growing, I mean, New Yorkers think they're the best in the world and they think they're superior. And it's like, there's a real New York ego thing.
yeah,
And it's like, most New Yorkers don't even know how to drive.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's just, it's a fantastic city. I love it. It'll always be where I was raised in my home. But I just think that, part of my personal arc is that immersion into nature.
Actually, kind of did I during the pandemic, I had this little project, personal, like I never shared, but I realized like kind of all the places had I had lived in my life were kind of different chapters,
Yes.
of this whole book that was, my book. And not just the place that I lived, but the place I traveled, you know.
Yes.
And I mean, I know you studied that too. What's it called? The astro.
Cartography.
Like, I guess I'm fascinated by that. And also, I don't think I've told you this, but when I was 18, I took the bus from Quebec City to California to LA to
Really?
send my dad. Yeah, I actually did it twice. I don't know what was like wrong with me or something, but my dad lived in San Diego at the time, and it was like $100 to take the bus from like
How
so
many
any
days did that bus ride take you?
yeah, 3 days.
Did you meet interesting people?
Actually 4 days. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. But what I noticed, Danielle, is that it was completely fascinating to me was it was so slow, right? Like
Yeah.
the Greyhound is so slow. And I would look at people, I love people watching and I love watching what people wear and
Yeah.
expressions and all that. And that's what I was talking earlier, I could see people like their physiology changed as the environment changed. Like people would fit the
Ah.
you do know what I mean? Like the
Yes.
countryside. I don't know how to explain it.
Yes.
And that was so even obviously like the things they wear and stuff. And so that's what just and then lately I've been like, oh my God, you become literally what you surround yourself with. Like
Yes.
you're like you are. What if you don't have connection to that?
Yes.
Then like that would feel very like I don't know, that would feel hopeless to me. I don't know.
For me in New York growing up, it was just, I was very in my head. I was a reader. I loved history.
Like in New York, people are so intense. They like walk like really fast, and like a lot of people are kind of skinnier and they're
Yes.
bony. And
Yep. I was all of that. I was all of that.
but then in Dallas, people are like super tan and they're like a bit stockier, and they're like that's
Yes.
what I mean. Like
Yes.
and that is like if you connect to that, then how much wider can you feel your life?
Like I would say in terms of cities, I think the healthiest I've ever seen people, I haven't been there in a long time, but it's Amsterdam. I haven't been to Copenhagen, but I would think maybe it's the same, Copenhagen and Stockholm. But in Amsterdam, I just remember like being like, everyone has such ruddy cheeks and they're so healthy and they're strong. And like, maybe it's all that bread and cheese, I don't know, but there's like, and they bike everywhere. Right. So there's that kind of quality. But yeah, the New York definitely has that. And like, you can never be skinny enough or whatever. But it's true. It's like we take in the environment that we are around. That's a reason that I really love Tennessee, because it's where we are is almost like subtropical. So we
Mm,
get 4 seasons, but there's a lot of mist and heavy rain, and the earth is soft and inviting, and it's really softened me. I'm out in Colorado. Basically my whole family lives here now, and I love it here, but the air is drier, the sun is stronger, there's a harshness in that confrontation. I feel like there's been a lot of growth. It's very, I, Nashville is very yin, the landscape, and Colorado's
yeah.
very yang.
Well, I love. Maybe you can explain what is. I always say it wrong, but card.
So astrocartography is where our particular lines fall on the map, the global map. So it's so funny because I'll be working with a client and then I'll say, what about this place? And they're like, I lived there for 10 years. There is strong energy and we're pulled to different places. And so if we're aware of I don't like to be too rigid about any of this stuff, but we're aware of it, it can be affirming. It can provide context. Often I find that when we're going through certain transits, which is what's happening in the sky currently and how it impacts our particular chart and the world, uh, we'll find that it coincides with the transit, like a certain line. We may be drawn to a certain line while we're having a certain transit. So it's again that idea that the energy is dynamic and we're dynamic and our relationship to this earth is dynamic. And it's fun to play
Mm,
around with.
it is. It is fun. As we wrap up there, I'd love to know just like your musings or perspective, I guess, on how can one do that, like in a way. Yeah, and I'd love to get a bit more practical, I guess. How does that look like to like live in the world, being spiritual and what everything, we've been talking about.
I think that a big part of it is just noticing what comes naturally
Mm,
and easily to us, not what we wish we were or who we wish we were, but where do our tendencies
mm,
lie, right? So if I think back throughout my life, like in high school, I was the person that everyone came to, and any job that I came to that, was at, I was the person who people often opened up to or asked questions or kind of just who I would give guidance to. So that just came naturally to me. And then I spent, let's say, my early 20s really spending a lot of time in a coffee shop in East Nashville. And throughout my life, I did freshman year of college in DC. I found a coffee shop and I, immersed myself there. Coffee shops have really been a place where I have grown and expanded my mind and learned from people and met friends. And, if I weren't doing what I were doing, I would probably open some kind of what they call third space. So not home, not work, like
Mm.
where people gather. And because I've always utilized that. I've never been a drinker, so I was never a bar person, but that's a lot of reason why people do go to bars or pubs is for the community and the connection piece. And I just really love that third space thing. So I feel like, and I've been a lover of history and a lover of literature and the human condition and the human experience, and also moralism and faith and all those questions that I really spent my college career focusing on or asking. So if I think back, it's like, oh, I just kind of followed what came naturally. And I didn't have a strategy. Um, I had a younger person come to me. I've had several come to me and they've been like, I want to do this. What's your strategy, et cetera. And I've been frankly a little harsh because I think that part of mentorship is like a lot of people just acquire new knowledge and jump right into it. And we have a lot of that. And there hasn't been a lot of metabolizing. I've been studying this stuff since I was 19. I'm 43. And I've been doing it full time for 7 years, which is a lot of time of study and a lot of time of living out in the world and falling down on my face and getting back up and having that growth. And when I was getting my master's in spiritual psychology, I was not on social media, not at all. I spent inordinate amounts of time alone in contemplation. And that was a 3-year program. There was a year in between the second year and the third year. And then I did 2 years, basically apprenticeship at the program where I read and metabolized that in that kind of way. And then I led in-person circles. And so I'm a big believer that in this desire to like find our calling and get ourselves out there, we actually can miss the subtle nuances because we're trying to architect an experience and brand it and sell it. And the more we are it, the more it will flow. Uh, and I recognize that's not the case if you're going to be a neurosurgeon. You need to go through certain steps, understandably. But I do think that we don't. When I was in my 20s, it felt like that cultural allowance to just try things. I got out of college and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I took a job at Scholastic and I worked in multimedia literacy for third graders under the Bush administration had this No Child Left Behind. And I did that. And then I worked on a political campaign. And then, I worked on a nonprofit. And all of that, if I connect the dots backwards in that famous Steve Jobs commencement speech, it's like if you allow yourself to follow what interests you, it will add up to something. It will make sense. And I think we live in this culture where it's all about like achievement. But I think what I'm seeing in my clients, what I'm seeing in my work is people are like, honestly, I just want like a waitressing job. I just want to be with people in real life. And that waitressing is connecting to people. It's service. It's usually feeling part of a community, whatever the restaurant, not only the clientele, but also the people that you work with. I think that we have this idea that our purpose is some grandstanding thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
the purpose is you're alive. That's it. Right. And we move through the world. And I just think the more we think about what interests us, right? Like a lot of what I've seen is people who studied in college, something they thought they were supposed to, that would get them a solid job, that got them, and then they're strapped with student loans and they're in this whole world that's manufactured that doesn't even feel real to them. And it's like, it's okay to take a circuitous route. It's necessary, I
I
think.
think so. I think so too. I love what you said about like, being a waitress is so important. Like you're like feeding people. You're like create like it's a huge not just that. It's like the
The interaction. I really suffered from the fact that I suffered is a very strong word, but I was raised in a home where it's like, where you have this academic degree and then you go and you intern. And it's like, I got coffee for like CEOs. Like that was good. I would have done much better waitressing or having a job that actually, by the way, paid me something. And then when I graduated my master's program, I worked behind the desk at a meditation studio, and that filled in the gap of what I had been missing because I was interfacing with people all day and I realized,
Mm.
hey, I'm really good at this. And like I was embarrassed by the fact that I didn't know how to like I would see people when I would go to a store and I'd buy something. It's like, how do you bring that up? Like I didn't know how to do that. So I walk through kind of a very mundane, everyday fear that I had that I hadn't metabolized that experience. And I realized I actually love doing this. I was paid so little that I could not, I was living on my sister's couch in my mid 30s doing that or early 30s. But I'm so glad I did it because I really was like, oh, this is the same thing where it's like I really just love interfacing with people and I love finding connections with people and I love making people feel seen. And from that, I taught meditation at that studio and it steamrolled from there. But I was living on my sister's couch and I don't regret that. And I'm grateful not everyone has a sister whose couch they can lay on. But I think that was all part of it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I'm most proud of is my clients are from all over the globe, every walk of life. There were a lot of things that led me to be able to hold
Yeah.
space in a non-tribal
Yeah.
way.
And that's hard, right? When I came seeking you, like I just had this sense, this weird sense, like I had like ended a cycle. At the same time, I knew I had been too entangled in like my ego. And I think you can, it's so
Yeah.
easy to get lost in the cultural noise,
Yeah.
like, or like a lot, some things we talked a lot in our group too. It was like being the good person, like, if, and I think a lot of us are so plagued with wanting to be a good citizen, be good, oh, this person is so good, they kind of stay stuck in
Yes.
that because they're afraid like they might, if they fail, then nobody, like, so you get kind of, and then it's a night, and then and then you are, and
Life is
I
messy.
remember when our first meeting, you weren't telling me things that I didn't know about myself. It was
Mhm.
like, but it was
Yeah.
it was fascinating to me, and the way, you used the chart just as a glance, not as the thing, it wasn't the center.
Well, because so many roads lead to Rome, right? And ultimately, what drives my work is the humanity piece and the mystical piece and where they coexist. And so I see the chart as a gateway, um, but also all energy is neutral until directed. So context matters. And I think that life is just so much more poetic and layered than you're in you're a Pisces, therefore, right? It's like how limiting is that? It's the same thing as saying like you're Canadian, you're this. I just think it's
Mm.
we miss the boat.
I love that. I love talking with you. One last thing. What do you think? Like, we're about 4 months out,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and because our relationship has been so much, the subject has been around creativity. I'd love your take on, like, I don't know why this phrase keeps coming back to me, but like almost the future of creativity and the need. Like, for me, it's such a tragedy that, imagination is so devalued in our society. Like, no one thinks it's important. And
Yes,
I'm just like, what do you mean it's gonna save the world? Like, and not and art, it's gonna
yes.
save us. And so what do you think is the future, like in a post pandemic? whatever you want to call it.
I've been thinking about this in terms of like the strikes, for example. And I've also been thinking about it in terms of how art has been so politicized. It's like if you like this, therefore you these are your political beliefs, which is just absurd because the idea of art is to reflect our humanity back to us. It's not supposed to fall down political lines. But I saw this meme online that was related to the strikes, the writers and the actors strike, and it said something like, when did art become content? And I honestly think about my time in LA before I started doing this, but even as I was beginning to, and this idea of like, am I a content creator? And really that term is so soulless, like content versus art versus imagination versus poetry versus expression, and how this idea that everything's been co-opted into buy, trade, sell. Like it's just, I hope that there is
Hmm.
a reimagining and a return to art and storytelling without it having an agenda. Just the story itself is what moves. It's what connects us to our humanity.
Art for art's sake.
Exactly.
Thanks for being here and your time.
Thank you for having me.